still think that was a stable part of his life. For him and his mentality and his frame of mind and his thought process, like although we were separated, he was still kind of part of that family unit. Because I was always in his house anyway. I got his medication, you know, I went his messages, I picked up his money, so I was still looking after him.
Yeah. What would you say, such a strange question, how did he change your life, your personality?
To be honest, probably in a bad way. Like my whole life was destined because of your dad. And you know, do you remember I told you a story about the car? Like 2 years before I was seeing your dad, I was 17 and I was doing my driving lessons at the time, and I was ready for my test. So my brother got a new car, and his old car, he got it all done up for me. Silver, Nova, sports motor, like just for a 17-year-old lassie, like that was just the perfect present. He just gave it to me. Like, that's your car when you pass your test. So anyway, the week before my test, we got up in the morning and the car was wrecked. Smashed. It was just it had to be scrapped. So because of that, I never went for my driving test because I was in such a downer. It's like, if my car was ready for me, what's the point? Going for this test, right? So I never went. So about 3 years later, me and your dad were talking about it. Like, how come you gave up your driving lessons? How come you've never drove? Blah, blah, blah. So I told him that story, and he said, it was me and Brian Sweeney. And I was like, what? So this is 2 years before I'm seeing your dad. 2 years before I'm in any sort of relationship with him. I was like, what do you mean? He said, the car that was parked outside your ma's house. So he knew it was Robert's car. I said, what did you do that for? Why did you do that if you knew that was Robert's car? He said, they wanted the CD player, right? But Robert was an electrician at the time, so Robert had his CD player all rigged up through his engine, so you couldn't just pop it out. You know, some people used to pop it out and take it with you. He had his all rigged up, so it was just in there permanent. So anyway, they couldn't get that out, so they just smashed the car. So that was the effect your dad had on my life. A big major thing, like freedom for me, driving my car. So I never went for it. Then, when I did meet your dad, in the April previous to that, I had been accepted into Perth University for teacher training in music. And I went to the halls of residence, we saw the place where I was going to be. That was it, it was accepted. Well, it was a conditional offer, as long as I got the marks at that time, which I did have anyway. So I was meant to start in August that year. In the July, I didn't go. So I met your dad in the May, the June, the July, I gave up my future. Really, when you look at it, what I was done all through school and college to go to this next avenue, and then a month after that, a month after I was meant to start uni, I was pregnant, and 5 months after that I was living in my own house, expecting Abby Rose.
Quite extreme how you went from like just complete basic innocence to
total. I mean, I had never been in a court till I met your dad, and see, when I met your dad as well, And I mean, it's not just his fault. I'm not putting all the blame on him, because that was my own person. I could have said no as well. But see, when I met your dad, all I done was like kind of worked. All during school I worked. When I went to college I worked. After that I still worked as well. So I always had money, like a right good couple of £1,000 in my bank account. And I used to buy jewellery. I had jewellery, gold rings for every finger, chains, bangles. We lost them all in the pond.
Do you want me to tell you a story? Actually, my mum does not buy gold jewellery anymore because after living with my dad, he pawned every single piece of gold jewellery, including her mother's ring, and ever since then she's only bought silver because...
Have you ever seen me with gold jewellery now?
He just took it.
Yeah, all of it. And at one point he was stealing stuff without me even knowing.